Ever wonder what skeletons were hiding in the closets of the White House? From secret affairs to hidden health crises, our presidents have kept some jaw-dropping secrets. Some changed the course of history, while others were just plain scandalous. What did they keep hidden from the American people? George Washington may be known as the father of our country, but he had a secret that would make any modern politician sweat. Washington spent a whopping 7% of his presidential salary on alcohol. But the real secret? Those famous wooden teeth. Total myth. The truth is way more disturbing. Washington's dentures were actually made from human teeth, animal teeth, and ivory. Receipts show he purchased teeth from enslaved people. So while he was leading the nation, he was literally wearing someone else's smile. Talk about a founding father with some serious dental baggage. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were political rivals who became the original frenemies. But here is the secret most people do not know. These two bitter opponents both died on the exact same day, July 4, 1826, which was the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Adams's last words were reportedly, "Thomas Jefferson survives." He did not know that Jefferson had died just hours earlier. Coincidence? Poetic justice? Either way, it is one of history's strangest secrets. Thomas Jefferson had perhaps the most controversial secret in early presidential history. For decades, he denied having a relationship with Sally Hemings, an enslaved woman at Monticello. Jefferson kept this secret throughout his presidency, but the truth eventually came out. In 1998, DNA testing proved that Jefferson fathered at least one of Hemings's children. Let us be clear on the historical context. Hemings had no legal rights and could not refuse Jefferson's advances. This was not a romance, it was an abuse of power. So much for that squeaky clean image as the author of the Declaration of Independence. James Madison may have been the father of the Constitution, but his final secret remains unsolved to this day. On his deathbed, when his niece asked what was the matter, Madison replied, "Nothing more than a change of mind, my dear." Then he died, leaving everyone wondering what on earth he meant. Was he talking about his health, his legacy, or something else? We will never know. Madison took that secret to the grave. James Monroe died on July 4, 1831, making him the third president to die on Independence Day. Talk about a patriotic exit. Is there something about July 4th and presidents? It's starting to feel like the universe has a weird sense of humor. Monroe's last words were about missing his friend, James Madison. John Quincy Adams was 80 years old and still fighting political battles in Congress when tragedy struck. While giving a heated speech, he suddenly collapsed from a stroke. He died right in the Capitol building. His life's dedication to America was reflected in his death in the halls of Congress. His last words were said to be these, "This is the last of Earth. I am content." Andrew Jackson's biggest secret wasn't just political, it was deeply personal. Jackson's wife Rachel died shortly before he took office, and Jackson blamed his political enemies for spreading rumors about her. But there is more. Jackson was involved in numerous duels, and in one of them he took a bullet that remained lodged near his heart for the rest of his life. Jackson literally carried a life-threatening secret inside his body while leading the nation. Martin Van Buren earned the nickname the Little Magician for his political skills, but his biggest secret was one he could not magic away, his handling of the Panic of 1837. While Van Buren publicly projected confidence, behind closed doors, he was desperately trying to manage an economic crisis that tanked his popularity. Van Buren's secret strategy was simple: just wait it out and hope things got better. Spoiler alert, they did not. William Henry Harrison's secret was that he did not have time to accumulate many secrets at all. Harrison gave the longest inaugural address in history, standing outside in freezing weather without a coat for nearly 2 hours. Then he caught pneumonia and died just 31 days into his presidency. The secret nobody talks about? Harrison's death exposed how unprepared the nation was for presidential succession. John Tyler became president under unusual circumstances, but his biggest secret came after his presidency. Tyler actually sided with the Confederacy during the Civil War and was elected to the Confederate Congress. When he died in 1862, the U.S. government did not officially recognize his death because he had committed treason. Tyler proved that sometimes your biggest secret is just which side you pick in a fight. James K. Polk kept a secret that killed him. Polk was one of the most ambitious presidents, expanding American territory through the Mexican-American War and the Oregon Treaty. But the secret was this: he worked himself to death. Literally. Polk was so obsessed with accomplishing his goals that he barely slept, rarely took breaks, and drove himself into the ground. Just 3 months after leaving office, Polk died at age 53. His last words to his wife were reportedly, "I love you, Sarah." Zachary Taylor's death sparked one of the strangest presidential conspiracy theories. Taylor died suddenly after eating cherries and drinking cold milk at a July 4th celebration. The official cause was acute gastroenteritis, but rumors swirled that he had been poisoned. In 1991, Taylor's body was exhumed to test for arsenic poisoning. The results were clear: no poison was found. So the secret was that there was no secret. Millard Fillmore's secret was that he was not as boring as everyone thought. While his presidency is often forgotten, Fillmore had a fascinating personal quirk. When he and his wife Abigail moved into the White House, they discovered the house had no books, so they established the first permanent White House library. After being offered soup on his deathbed, his last words were reportedly the phrase, "The nourishment is palatable." Even at death's door, the man remained politely bland. Franklin Pierce had a secret that haunted him throughout his presidency. Just 2 months before his inauguration, Pierce and his family were in a train accident that killed their 11-year-old son Benjamin right before Pierce's eyes. Pierce kept his grief mostly private, but it shattered him. His wife blamed him for their son's death, believing it was God's punishment for Pierce's political ambition. The secret grief poisoned his presidency, and it contributed to his spiral into alcoholism. James Buchanan has a secret that historians still debate to this day. Buchanan was America's only bachelor president, and he lived with Alabama Senator William Rufus King for over 10 years. Andrew Jackson called them Miss Nancy and Miss Fancy, and newspapers described their relationship as a conspicuous intimacy. The secret? Many scholars now believe Buchanan may have been gay or bisexual. In the 1850s, that was a secret worth keeping. Abraham Lincoln had a secret that could have changed history. On April 14, 1865, the same day Lincoln was assassinated, he signed legislation creating the U.S. Secret Service. The tragic irony is this: if the Secret Service had existed and been assigned to protect presidents, Lincoln might have survived that night at Ford's Theater. But here is the kicker. The Secret Service was originally created to combat counterfeiting money, not to protect presidents. Andrew Johnson's secret was that he was drunk at his own inauguration as vice president. Seriously, Johnson showed up to Abraham Lincoln's second inauguration in 1865, and he gave a rambling, incoherent speech because he had been drinking heavily. Lincoln reportedly told the sergeant at arms to keep Johnson away from him. When Lincoln was assassinated just weeks later, this drunk man became president. Sometimes your biggest secret is simply that you cannot hold your liquor. Ulysses S. Grant's biggest secret was that his administration was drowning in corruption, but he seemed oblivious to it all. The whiskey ring scandal involved government officials stealing millions in tax revenues, and it implicated Grant's personal secretary. Grant was either too trusting or too naive, but either way, he kept defending his friends even when the evidence was overwhelming. The secret? Grant was a brilliant general, but a terrible judge of character. Rutherford B. Hayes had a secret that tainted his entire presidency. Hayes lost the popular vote to Samuel Tilden in the 1876 election, but after a controversial deal, the Electoral College gave him the presidency. The secret compromise of 1877 essentially traded Hayes's victory for the end of Reconstruction, pulling federal troops out of the South. This secret deal effectively ended protection for newly freed Black Americans and allowed Jim Crow to flourish. James A. Garfield's secret is that he was likely killed by his doctors, not by his assassin. When Charles Guiteau shot Garfield in July 1881, the wound was not immediately fatal. Doctors spent weeks probing Garfield's wound with unsterilized instruments, trying to find the bullet. The infection from the medical treatment is what actually killed Garfield 79 days later. Medical incompetence turned a survivable wound into a death sentence. Chester A. Arthur succeeded to the presidency when Garfield died, but ironically, he also left office a dying man. Arthur's work is generally unknown, but he stunned reformers by signing the Pendleton Act to reform the civil service, thus distancing himself from the political machine that put him in office. Arthur was much more interested in wearing expensive suits than making speeches. Grover Cleveland had perhaps the most disturbing secret of any president. During the 1884 election, it was revealed that Cleveland had fathered a child out of wedlock with a woman named Maria Halpin. But Cleveland's secret was even darker. According to Halpin's affidavit, their child was conceived through what would today be called sexual assault. When the child was born, Cleveland used his political power to have Halpin committed to an asylum and sent the child to an orphanage. Somehow, he still won the election. Benjamin Harrison's secret was that he was terrified of electricity. When electric lights were first installed in the White House during his presidency, Harrison and his wife were so scared of electrocution that they refused to touch the light switches. The White House staff had to turn the lights on and off for them. Sometimes the lights would stay on all night because nobody wanted to risk touching the switches. William McKinley's secret had nothing to do with politics and everything to do with his health. McKinley suffered from epilepsy, but his wife Ida and his staff worked tirelessly to hide his seizures from the public. When McKinley had a seizure, someone would quickly throw a handkerchief over his face until it passed, and then they would continue as if nothing had happened. This secret was kept so well that it was not widely known until after his death. Theodore Roosevelt's secret was that he became nearly blind in one eye after a boxing match in the White House. Yes, you read that right. As president, Teddy took part in a boxing match, and he took a punch that detached his retina, leaving him with severe vision loss in his left eye. He kept the injury a secret for years because he did not want to appear weak. That was not his wildest secret. On another occasion, Roosevelt was shot in the chest right before a campaign speech, yet he insisted on delivering a 90-minute speech anyway. William Howard Taft hated being president. His true passion was the law, and after leaving office, he became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, a position he loved far more than the presidency. He only accepted the presidency to please his wife, not because he wanted the job. Weighing over 300 pounds, Taft had a custom-made bathtub installed that could fit 4 normal-sized men. Woodrow Wilson's secret was so well hidden that it nearly paralyzed the government. In 1919, Wilson suffered a massive stroke that left him partially paralyzed and almost blind. But his wife Edith and his doctors kept this secret from the public and Congress for over a year. Edith essentially ran the country, deciding which issues were important enough to bring to her incapacitated husband. She was effectively the first female president, though unofficially. Warren G. Harding's secrets were so numerous they could fill a book. Harding had multiple affairs, including one with Nan Britton that produced a secret daughter. He gambled away White House china when he ran out of cash during poker games, but Harding's biggest secret? His administration was one of the most corrupt in history. The Teapot Dome scandal involved his interior secretary accepting bribes from oil companies. Some even suspected his wife Florence poisoned him. Calvin Coolidge's secret was that he was actually pretty funny, despite his nickname Silent Cal. Coolidge once attended a dinner party where a woman bet she could get him to say more than 2 words. He replied, "You lose." But here is his darker secret. Coolidge withdrew from public life after his teenage son died from an infected blister he got while playing tennis on the White House courts. Gee, Saws. When Coolidge died, writer Dorothy Parker allegedly quipped, "How can they tell?" Herbert Hoover's secret was that he was not actually the heartless villain history made him out to be. He was a humanitarian who during World War I organized food relief efforts that saved millions of lives in Europe. But during the Great Depression, Hoover kept his belief that the federal government should not interfere too much in the economy private. That laissez-faire philosophy made him look callous while Americans starved. Hoover spent decades after his presidency trying to rehabilitate his image. Franklin D. Roosevelt had a secret so big it required a massive cover-up involving the press, the Secret Service, and his entire administration. Roosevelt was paralyzed from the waist down because of polio, but the American public rarely saw him in a wheelchair. Photographers were told never to photograph the president being transferred or sitting in his wheelchair. The Secret Service would form a human wall whenever Roosevelt needed to be moved. This secret was so well kept that many Americans did not realize their president could not walk. Harry S. Truman's biggest secret changed the world forever. Truman authorized the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending World War II, but ushering in the nuclear age. He kept the development of the atomic bomb secret from the American people, and even from his own vice president, until he became president. Here is another Truman secret. The letter S in his name does not stand for nothing. His parents could not decide between 2 grandfathers' names, so the middle initial stayed just an initial. Dwight D. Eisenhower's secret was that he carried on a close relationship with his driver, Kay Summersby, during World War II. Eisenhower considered divorcing his wife, Mamie, to marry Summersby, but he ultimately did not go through with it. This secret was kept quiet until after Eisenhower's death. But Eisenhower's presidential secrets were even bigger. He authorized numerous covert CIA operations, including the overthrow of governments in Iran and Guatemala. John F. Kennedy's secrets were legendary even before his death. John F. Kennedy had numerous affairs, including rumored relationships with Marilyn Monroe and with mafia girlfriend Judith Campbell Exner. One Secret Service agent said his job was to make sure John F. Kennedy was not disturbed during his interludes, but Kennedy's biggest secret was his health. John F. Kennedy suffered from Addison's disease, chronic back pain, and numerous other ailments. The image of young, vigorous Camelot was carefully crafted to hide a president who was often in excruciating pain. Lyndon B. Johnson's secrets were as big as his personality. LBJ had a buzzer installed in the Oval Office so the Secret Service could warn him when his wife, Lady Bird, was approaching, giving him time to hide his extramarital activities. But LBJ's biggest secret was that he was haunted by Vietnam. Johnson knew the war was unwinnable, but he kept escalating anyway, too proud to admit defeat. His final years were spent in anguish over his legacy. Richard Nixon's secrets literally destroyed his presidency. The Watergate scandal revealed that Nixon had been secretly taping all Oval Office conversations. When those tapes proved he had covered up the break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters, Nixon became the only president to resign from office. But Nixon had other secrets. His mental state deteriorated so badly during Watergate that his aides worried about his stability. Gerald Ford's secret was that he pardoned Richard Nixon, not just for humanitarian reasons, but to help the country move on from the Watergate scandal. Ford knew the pardon would destroy his chances of winning the election in 1976, but he did it anyway. That decision cost him the presidency, but it earned him respect in later years. Ford's other secret? He was a male model. Seriously. Before entering politics, Ford graced the cover of Cosmopolitan magazine. Jimmy Carter's secret was not about scandal. It was something much weirder. Carter reported seeing a UFO in 1969. The future president filed an official report describing a bright object that changed colors and moved strangely in the sky. Carter promised during his campaign to release all government UFO files if elected, but he never did. His explanation was that the CIA convinced him it would be a national security risk. So what did Carter see? Ronald Reagan's secret was that his wife Nancy consulted astrologers to help plan his schedule after the 1981 assassination attempt. Joan Quigley, an astrologer, had significant influence over Reagan's daily activities, determining which days were good or bad for important events, and that influence represented a reliance on astrology. But Reagan's biggest secrets involved the Iran-Contra affair, where his administration secretly sold weapons to Iran and funneled money to Nicaraguan rebels. Reagan claimed he did not know about the illegal scheme. George H.W. Bush's secret was that he knew more about Iran-Contra than he admitted. Bush claimed ignorance, but his diary entries suggested he was aware of the arms for hostages deal. Bush later pardoned 6 officials involved in the scandal, effectively ending further investigation. As former CIA director, Bush knew where a lot of bodies were buried, literally and figuratively. Bill Clinton's secret became the most famous presidential scandal of the modern era. Clinton's affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky led to his impeachment for perjury and obstruction of justice. When he famously declared, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman," he became a punchline. Clinton was eventually acquitted by the Senate, but his legacy was forever tarnished. Turns out some secrets are impossible to keep. George W. Bush's secret was that his administration's case for invading Iraq rested on faulty intelligence about weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. Bush kept the uncertainties about that intelligence secret from the American people. The revelation destroyed trust in the presidency, and it sparked debates about government transparency that continue today. Bush's secret transformation from party boy to president proved that people can change. Barack Obama did not have a scandalous secret, but it was surprising. His real secret was the expansion of surveillance programs and drone strikes. He came into office promising transparency, yet he expanded the national security state in ways that shocked civil liberties advocates. The secret is this: even the most progressive presidents struggle with the balance between security and openness. Obama's struggles with secrecy show how hard it is to be an open president. Donald Trump's secrets are still being uncovered, from hush money payments to adult film stars to questions about his business dealings and tax returns. Trump's presidency was defined by investigations and legal battles. Trump's secret: he treated the presidency like a reality show, breaking norms left and right. His handling of classified documents after leaving office led to federal indictments, making him the first former president to be criminally charged. Joe Biden's secrets are less about personal scandal and more about a long political career. From plagiarism accusations in his 1988 presidential campaign to questions about his son Hunter's business dealings, Biden's secrets show the challenges of a lifetime in public service. Biden's biggest secret is that he is older than any first-term president in history, and questions about his age and cognitive ability have dogged his presidency. Which president's secret surprised you the most? Leave a comment and let us know. And don't forget to like and